I never thought I'd be sharing my story like this. But sometimes life takes unexpected turns that change everything. I'm Amanda, and this is how my perfect American dream turned into something I never imagined. It all started in our senior year at Lincoln High School in suburban Ohio. Jack Mitchell was the kind of guy every girl wanted to date. Tall, athletic, and with those piercing blue eyes that seemed to look right through you. He wasn't just handsome, he was smart too, especially when it came to technical stuff. While other guys were goofing off in CAD class, Jack was actually creating things. I still remember the first time he asked me out. It was after volleyball practice, and I was still in my gym clothes. He just walked up, confident but not cocky, and asked if I wanted to grab a burger. That burger turned into daily lunch dates, study sessions, and before we knew it, we were inseparable. My parents loved him, especially my dad. "That boy's got a good head on his shoulders," he'd say at least once a week. We were the perfect high school couple until that pregnancy test changed everything. I'll never forget staring at those two pink lines in the girls' bathroom. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the test. I was 17, captain of the volleyball team, with college scholarships lined up. Jack had his own plans too, a full ride to Ohio State for engineering. When I told him, I expected him to run. That's what teenage boys do, right? But Jack surprised me. He held me while I cried in his beat-up Chevy outside school. "We'll figure this out together," he said, wiping my tears away. And he meant it. The next day, he went straight to his CAD teacher, Mr. Peterson. Jack had always been his favorite student. Mr. Peterson had connections at a local construction company. Within a week, Jack had lined up a job interview. He gave up his scholarship without hesitation. My parents were devastated when we told them. Mom cried for days. Dad wouldn't even look at Jack for weeks. But they didn't kick me out like some parents would. Instead, they cleared out the basement. "It's not much," Mom said, "but it's a start." Jack moved in after Tommy was born. Tommy, our beautiful mistake, as I used to think of him. He had Jack's eyes and my smile. Those first few months were harder than anything I'd ever done. Sleepless nights, endless diaper changes, and trying to finish high school online. Jack worked long hours at his new CAD job. He'd come home exhausted but still take Tommy so I could shower or nap. We were making it work, somehow. But I was restless. While my friends were posting college party photos on MySpace, I was posting baby pictures. They were living the life I thought I'd have. That's when I started spending more time online. At first, it was just to feel connected to the outside world. Then I met Brian. He messaged me late one night when I was up with Tommy. His profile picture showed a guy with perfect teeth and a fancy car. He was in college, living the life I'd given up. We started chatting regularly. He made me feel young again, desirable. Not just someone's mom or girlfriend. I knew it was wrong. But I couldn't stop. The messages got more flirtatious. Then explicit. We planned to meet at the mall. I told myself it was innocent, just coffee. But deep down, I knew better. I even bragged about what I'd do with him. Things I'd only ever done with Jack. I should have known Jack would find out. He wasn't stupid. When he confronted me with the messages, I saw something break in his eyes. That trust, that unwavering faith he'd always had in me, gone. "Take Tommy and go to your mom's," he said quietly. No yelling, no drama. That almost made it worse. I packed our things that night. Tommy was confused, crying. I told him we were going on a little vacation. But kids know when something's wrong. The next few years were a blur of shared custody and awkward exchanges. Jack never missed a support payment. Never used Tommy against me. He was a better person than I deserved. While I worked retail and dated losers, Jack was building something. He got his associate's degree. Then decided to go for his bachelor's. I watched from a distance as he transformed. Working multiple jobs, studying late into the night. He'd pick up Tommy in his bouncer clothes, having come straight from his weekend job. Sometimes I'd catch Tommy bragging about his dad to his friends. My dad works 3 jobs and goes to school. It made my heart ache. I dated other guys during those years. None of them measured up to Jack. They either couldn't handle that I had a kid, or they were just looking for something casual. Meanwhile, Jack focused on himself and Tommy. He never brought his dates around our son. Never badmouthed me. Just kept pushing forward. When he graduated with his architecture degree, Tommy and I were there. I saw him walk across that stage and felt such a mix of emotions. Pride, regret, longing. He'd done everything right. Even after I'd done him so wrong. Then came Tommy's 7th birthday. I'd planned a small party at my parents' house. Jack helped set up, like he always did. We've gotten good at this co-parenting thing. When Tommy blew out his candles, everything changed. I wish Mommy and Daddy would live together again. The room went silent. I looked at Jack through tears. He was crying too. That night, after everyone left, we talked. Really talked. About the past, our mistakes, our growth. About second chances. When he kissed me, it felt like coming home. We got married at the courthouse 2 weeks later. No fancy dress or expensive rings. Instead, we got matching tattoos. His with my initials, mine with his. Tommy was our best man. For our honeymoon, we took Tommy to Disney World. Watching them together on Space Mountain, I thought my heart would burst. This was everything I'd ever wanted. Everything I'd almost thrown away. The next few years were like a dream. Jack's career took off at his architecture firm. We bought a beautiful 3-bedroom house in a good neighborhood. I got a job at the high school cafeteria and started coaching volleyball. We were that family everyone envied. The ones who made it work despite the odds. But dreams have a way of fading. And sometimes, the person who ruins everything isn't who you'd expect. Sometimes, that person is you. Again. That's when Rachel came into our lives. Or rather, back into our lives. We'd known her in high school, but she'd changed. Wild, free-spirited Rachel with her 4 kids and revolving door of boyfriends. She made my life look boring in comparison. At first, Jack was supportive of our friendship. You deserve to have friends, he'd say. But I could tell he was worried. Rachel had a way of making everything seem exciting. The clubs she took me to. The people she introduced me to. Her latest boyfriend, Mike, was different from the others. Younger, with a dangerous edge. The way he looked at me made me feel things I hadn't felt in years. Rachel noticed. Of course she noticed. She noticed everything. You know, she said one night at the club, Mike thinks you're hot. I should have shut it down right there. Should have remembered what I'd almost lost before. But I didn't. The flirting started small. A lingering touch here. A private joke there. Rachel encouraged it. Said I deserved to feel alive again. That's how it started. That's how I began to destroy everything. Again. But this time would be different. This time, I'd lose more than just Jack's trust. I'd lose myself. And finding my way back. That would be the hardest part of all. Because sometimes the person you need to forgive isn't someone else. It's yourself. But I'm getting ahead of the story. First, you need to understand how it all fell apart. How one bad decision led to another. How I convinced myself I deserved more than what I had. Even though what I had was everything I'd ever wanted. That's the thing about happiness. Sometimes we don't recognize it until it's gone. And sometimes, we're the ones who chase it away. The first time I kissed Mike was at Rachel's house. Jack was working late at the firm. Tommy was at a friend's house for a sleepover. Rachel had invited us over for drinks. Just a casual night in, she said. But nothing with Rachel was ever really casual. The music was loud, the lights were low. And there was something in the air that night. Something dangerous and exciting. Rachel kept mixing drinks even though I usually didn't drink. Live a little, she whispered, pressing a glass into my hand. Mike was watching me from across the room. The way he looked at me made my skin tingle. Rachel noticed, of course. She always noticed. Why don't we make things interesting, she suggested. Estade. That's when she kissed Mike. Right there in front of me. Then she turned to me, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Your turn, she said. I should have left. Should have called Jack. Should have done anything but what I did next. But the alcohol was buzzing in my veins. And Mike's eyes were so different from Jack's. Dark and hungry where Jack's were clear and kind. The kiss was electric. Everything a forbidden kiss should be. When it ended, Rachel was smiling. See, she said. Isn't this more fun than sitting at home? That night changed everything. It became our secret. The three of us. Meeting at Rachel's house when we could. Each time going a little further. Each time crossing another line. Rachel filmed some of it. Said it was hot. Said we'd want to remember. I never thought about Jack finding those videos. Never thought about consequences at all. I was too caught up in the thrill. The excitement of being desired. Of being reckless. Of being someone other than Jack's wife. Tommy's mom. The cafeteria lady. The volleyball coach. But reality has a way of creeping in. Even in the midst of fantasy. Jack started asking questions. Where was I going so often? Why was I always with Rachel? That's when I made my biggest mistake. I suggested opening our marriage. Thought it would give me cover. Make what I was doing okay somehow. Jack agreed too easily. I should have known something was wrong. Should have seen the pain in his eyes. But I was too wrapped up in my own desires. Too busy destroying everything we'd built. Meanwhile, Tommy was growing up. 17 now, looking more like Jack every day. He noticed things too. The tension at dinner. The separate bedrooms. The way his dad stayed later at work. I told myself he was old enough to understand. That kids are resilient. That he'd be fine. More lies I told myself. Then came the night everything exploded. I'd put a tracker on Jack's car. Paranoid that he was seeing someone. Ironic, right? The cheater worried about being cheated on. The tracker led me to a familiar address. Sarah's house. My stepsister. I kicked in the door without thinking. Found them together. Jack and Sarah. On her couch. The betrayal I felt was ridiculous. Hypocritical. But it burned all the same. I screamed. Called them every name I could think of. That's when Jack pulled out his phone. Showed Sarah the videos. The ones Rachel had taken. The ones I thought were secret. Showed her everything. My shame laid bare. Sarah looked sick. Jack looked broken. And I had nowhere left to hide. No more lies to tell. No more excuses to make. The truth was finally out. All of it. The affairs. The videos. The lies. Everything I'd done to destroy us. Again. Jack didn't yell. Didn't curse. Just looked at me with those clear blue eyes. "We're done," he said quietly. Just like that first time. But this was different. This was final. I tried to argue. Tried to blame him for being with Sarah. But the words felt hollow even to me. I'd started this. All of it. The next few days were a blur. Moving out. Dividing possessions. Watching Tommy pack his things for both houses. He didn't seem surprised. That hurt more than anything. Jack got a nice apartment. Modern, clean, fresh start. I moved in with Rachel temporarily. Ironic again. Mike was gone by then. On to his next adventure. Rachel tried to comfort me. Said we'd had fun while it lasted. But looking at her now, I felt sick. What had I been thinking? What had I thrown away? And for what? A few thrills? Some exciting moments? A chance to feel young again? The cost was too high. Way too high. Tommy splits his time between us now. 50-50. Fair and square. Just like Jack always is. He's doing well in his new place. Better than me. I see him sometimes at Tommy's events. He looks younger somehow. Lighter. Free. While I feel ancient. Heavy with regret. Weighed down by my choices. Rachel's moved on to new drama. New friends. New men. But I can't move on. Can't forget what I had. What I threw away. Twice. They say you don't know what you've got until it's gone. But that's not true. I knew exactly what I had. I just thought I deserved more. Wanted more. Needed more. I was wrong. So wrong. Now I sit in my small apartment. Looking at old photos. The matching tattoos we got instead of rings. His initials still marked on my skin. A permanent reminder of promises broken. Of trust destroyed. Of love lost. Not once, but twice. By the same person. Me. Sometimes I wonder if Jack ever looks at his tattoo. If he regrets getting it like he regrets trusting me again. Sarah tells me he's dating someone new. A lawyer he met through work. She's everything I'm not. Sophisticated, successful, childless. No complicated past. No betrayals. Tommy likes her. Says she makes Dad laugh. I haven't heard Jack laugh in so long. Not since before everything fell apart. Last week, I ran into Mike at the grocery store. He tried to make small talk. Asked if I wanted to grab coffee sometime. I walked away without answering. Some mistakes you only make twice. Not 3 times. Rachel calls sometimes. Usually late at night when she's been drinking. Says we should get the old gang back together. I block her calls now. The school gave me a choice. Resign or be fired. Turns out, being part of a sex scandal isn't great for a high school employee. Even if the videos never went public. The rumors were enough. I work at a diner now. Midnight shift. The tips are decent. And the hours give me time to think. Too much time, maybe. Tommy graduates next month. He's going to Ohio State. Just like Jack would have if I hadn't gotten pregnant. Full scholarship, just like his dad would have had. Jack's paying for his dorm room. I'm buying his books. Co-parenting until the end. The ceremony will be awkward. Jack and his lawyer girlfriend on one side. Me alone on the other. Sarah might come with her husband. She and Jack didn't last. Just a moment of revenge that hurt everyone involved. Including her marriage. But they worked through it. Some people know how to fix their mistakes. I'm not one of them. Yesterday, I found my old MySpace password. Logged in for the first time in years. Found those messages that started it all. The ones with Brian. They seem so childish now. So meaningless. But they were the first domino. The first betrayal that led to all the others. I deleted the account. Too little, too late. Like everything else. Tommy asked me yesterday why I did it. Why I cheated on Dad. Both times. He's old enough now to understand. Or at least to ask. But I don't have an answer. Not a good one. How do you explain selfishness to your child? How do you tell him that sometimes people destroy good things? Just because they can. Just because they're bored. Just because they forget to be grateful. You don't. You just apologize. And hope someday he understands. Not forgives. Just understands. Jack's firm is designing a new building downtown. His name is on the billboard. Principal architect. I drive by it sometimes. Remember how hard he worked for this. While I was destroying everything. He was building. Always building. Even now, he's building a new life. Without me. I got a letter from Ohio State yesterday. They're offering me a job. Cafeteria manager. Better pay than the diner. But it would mean seeing Tommy every day. Watching him live the college life I prevented Jack from having. I turned it down. Some ghosts you don't need to chase. My therapist says I'm making progress. Learning to forgive myself. But some days I wonder. Is forgiveness what I deserve? Or is this guilt my penance? The price of destroying something beautiful. Not once, but twice. Jack sent me an email last week. First direct contact in months. Tommy's graduation party. He's hosting it at his apartment. Says I'm welcome to come early. Help set up. Like old times. But it's not like old times. Can't ever be again. I'll go, of course. For Tommy. Always for Tommy. But I'll leave early. Before the cake. Before the pictures. Before I have to watch Jack with his new girlfriend. Before Tommy makes a wish. Some wishes don't come true. Some shouldn't. I learned that at his 7th birthday. When he wished us back together. And I learned it again 10 years later. when I wished for more than I had, more than I deserved. Now I just wish for peace, for Tommy to be happy, for Jack to find love again. Real love, not the broken kind I offered. And for me? I wish for understanding of why I did what I did, of who I really am, of how to live with the consequences of my choices. But mostly, I wish I'd known that what I had was enough. More than enough. It was everything. And now it's gone. End.